Well, welcome to our Friday live stream. We're coming to you live from the Huckabee Theater just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. This is also the place where we're going to be doing the Huckabee Show this weekend that you will get to see on Saturday and Sunday nights on TBN, the Trinity Broadcasting Network. I know there's no way you would miss that because, well, it would be stupid to miss the show. Our senior producer for the Huckabee Show, Pam Case, joins me as she does every Friday here on the live stream. Pam, I was telling you before the show that if the videos that we're going to show the audience, we've got some real zingers today. I mean, some that are worth whatever it is you're doing, stop it. Just stop and listen, watch this because it's going to be good. But we may have to start calling this the live scream. Yeah, somebody, maybe you and me, I don't know. We'll have a lot of screaming going on by the end of this 30 minutes. You know, if I didn't have to be a little more civil, I'm pretty sure that with some of this stuff, I'd be screaming at the television set, or I could even be maybe doing an Elvis and take a revolver and just, you know, blow the screen up. I always wanted to do that. You know, I never had enough money I could just shoot a television. Yeah, well, we don't want to evoke any kind of unnecessary fury, but... Somebody will be reporting me probably to the gods of the internet and say, Mike Huckabee has gone full violent. He's now threatening to blow up a television set. So just know, I'm kidding. I'm not actually going to do it. After you watching some of these videos, you might feel that you must do it, but I don't think so. Anyway, send your questions in the chat. We'd love to get your participation today, and I'm going to tell you why it's going to be even more important than ever. If you want to get more visibility for your question, send it in a super chat. We've got moderators watching the chat for questions that'll be fielding them to Pam, who will then give them to me, and I'll do my best to answer as many as we can get to. But some of the things we're going to cover today. Joe Biden announces the pandemic is over. Oh, how good to hear that. Also, his administration panics when they hear it. Intellectual powerhouse Kamala Harris shares her thoughts on community banks. I always wondered what they were. We're going to find out because she's going to tell us. And we're going to be talking about a shocking story. Vanderbilt University, right here in Nashville, exploiting children to admittedly make big bucks. And how are they going to make those dollars? We'll tell you in the course of the live stream today. Now, here's the challenge. If we get 1,500 likes on this video live stream before it's over, we have a phenomenal video to show you. It is Donald Trump interviewing Joe Biden on 60 Minutes. It's really priceless. If you want to see some of that clip, you got to make sure that you click the like button. We got to get to 1,500. That's our bribe. Let's just be honest. Could we show it without the 1,500? We could. We're just not, because we want you to hit the like button. And the best way to get you to do that is to say, hit us with 1,500 likes, we give you the treat. It's how I work with my little puppies. I give them treats when they obey. Actually, they hardly ever obey, and they still get the stinking tweets. I don't understand the treats. I'm just a sucker, both with my dogs and with my grandchildren. Share the video so your friends will also click the like button. Now, if you've not already subscribed, right now is a great time to do it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, hit that like button, you already know why, and share it with friends, relatives, people at work, neighbors, even your most horrid enemies. Share it with them too. Every week we pick up a favorite comment from last week's live stream. It's always fun to kind of decide who had something that was really pithy that we wanted to share. And this is from Mike Longwell, who said, I quote, I love that they're sending illegal immigrants to Martha's Vineyard and Vice President Harris's home. Next up, Delaware? They need to send a lot more. Mike, we would agree with you. We also always like to have a question for you this week. Engage with us and answer this question in our chat stream. Do you agree with the governors of Texas and Florida sending illegals to sanctuary cities and states? Leave your answers in the chat or the comments section below, and we'll be monitoring those and give you a report on what kind of response we are getting. All right, I think it's time for us to go to some of the clips, and the first one is Joe Biden making another speech at the podium, and I think they quit putting stage directions in his teleprompter notes because too often he was reading them. He would come to the end of a sentence and in parentheses, the stage direction would say, turn left. And he would say, turn left. So they quit doing that because it got embarrassing. Now the problem is when he finishes his speech, he has no clue what to do, where to go, and he's looking around like a lost puppy. His hands are always out in front of him like, help me, help the boy, please come get me. This is after one of his speeches this week. It's priceless. There you see, hands in front, slowly turn. Look, is somebody there to tell me? Nope.
Mr. President, thank you.
Oh, here you go.
At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate. But for all the millions whose lives will be saved,
now
for the
he
communities
just wanders off the stage away from the person who is addressing him. I think that was as bizarre as when he was just walking around the stage looking like, is there an ice cream shop nearby? When is my ice cream time coming up?
I don't even know what the answer is to make that better. That's the sad thing. I'm just not sure what to do.
I mean, it's almost like at the end of every speech with people clapping, they need to have somebody come up to the podium, take him by the arm rather gently, wave at everyone, and kind of pull him and just tell him, pretend you're on a leash, follow the person who guides you off. Because I don't know how else to deal with that. It absolutely is bizarre. Well, last weekend he was on 60 Minutes, only the 22nd interview that he has given. By this time, Donald Trump, I think, had given 90-something interviews, and Barack Obama, to his credit, had given almost 200. So Joe Biden is the least accessible president in modern times, and some people say, well, he ought to be available more. Well, this is why he isn't, because when he goes out there, even with a very friendly, cover your backside reporter like Scott Pelley from CBS, he still gets himself in a lot of trouble, and you can just hear in the White House somebody yelling, clean up in aisle 4, Joe Biden's on TV. So he's walking around the Detroit Auto Show with Scott Pelley of CBS, and he just flat declares, pandemic is over.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of it. You guys are walking around, and I'm glad you're not feeling compelled to wear your mask. You're only two there, other than the camera people, and they're quite a distance. But the amazing thing was, I don't think he fully understood that when he declared the pandemic is over, he just knocked the legs off the table that was holding all this free money for loan forgiveness, because it was all predicated on that we're in a pandemic and it's an emergency and I have executive authority to release money, maybe, $1 trillion worth, because we're in an emergency due to the pandemic. Then he says the pandemic is over. It's like, goodbye program, no more loan forgiveness. He may still try to do it, but he just undercut his own program when he said that. Just bizarre. Anyway, needless to say, the White House staff went into overdrive, capturing a little bit here from the auto show, and his ever so capable, sarcasm inserted, press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre attempts to explain, well, he didn't really mean it like that.
Just to step back for a second, what we saw during that interview, 60-minute interview, when he made those comments, he was walking through the Detroit car show, the halls of the Detroit car show, and he was looking around. We have to remember the last time that they had held that event was 3 years ago. Even as we're talking about UNGA, the president's going to speak shortly, as I just mentioned, that hasn't been held in person for about 3 years as well. So we are in a different time. He's been very consistent about that.
Yeah, Joe's always in a different time, Karine. That's the problem. A different time, a different space, a different place. That's the problem. And her attempt to walk that back just didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it really didn't.
That's the only thing that's consistent with her, is her inability to walk things back.
I'm a student of rhetorical theory. I love to analyze the rhetorical aspects of someone speaking, but whether it's body language or the use of words, cadence, all that stuff. When I watch her, one of the things I notice is that she rarely makes eye contact when she's in the middle of a lie. When she's saying something that you know she knows is not true, watch her. Her eyes always drop and looks to the right, looks to the left, never looks at the person. It's a clear indication. It's one of those things, I'm telling you, watch her. And when you do, you're going to notice that when she's off into this la-la land of trying to defend something that's indefensible, that's when she will pretend to look down at her notes. She probably is actually looking at her notes, and then to the left, to the right, and give this, you know, rock and roll motion here, left, right. Cannot look at the person that she's saying this to.
It's a good observation.
It's fun to watch her. Well, actually, it's excruciating to watch her, to be honest with you, but so what? Hey, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Be sure to like, because we need 1,500 of those today to see a very, very hilarious video that we'll show you at the end of the live stream, and be sure to share it with other people. Now, this week was a week of great controversy, and the really epicenter of it was right here where we are, Nashville, Tennessee, and that is that Vanderbilt University was exposed for a program they've actually been operating since 2018, so it's not brand new, but it's just now really coming to light. And what is extraordinary is that they created this program for transgender surgery back in 2018, and they started becoming a place where children who have been convinced that they really should have been the other gender, and now they desire either chemical castration, hormone treatments, and/or mutilating surgery. Vanderbilt wants to be kind of the center of this, I guess not just for Tennessee, but for the country, because they are a national medical center. What is really disturbing is that in one of the moments caught on video, this is just bizarre, but Dr. Shane Taylor of Vanderbilt admits that one of the reasons Vanderbilt wants to get into this is because there's money, big money, to be made because of all the extensive visits and follow-up visits that are required for this process. Watch this.
Some of our VUMC financial folks in October of 2016, starting a couple years ago, put down some costs of how much money we think each patient would bring in. And this is only including top surgery. This isn't including any bottom surgery. And it's a lot of money. These surgeries make a lot of money. So female to male chest reconstruction can bring in $40,000. And the female to male bottom surgeries, these are huge money makers. Again, I think this has to be an underestimate that they're quoting around $20,000 for a phalloplasty. There's been different things that I've read that said it could be up to $100,000.
I got to tell you, that just, it's heart-wrenching, because you've got parents who are taking their children into Vanderbilt because they're convinced that their child, who is a biological boy, would really like to be a girl. And because he just made some comment, and they're woke enough that they think that's very, very important and cool, and they don't realize they're being had. Every bit of her conversation, it was hard to hear, and I know that maybe you had a hard time hearing it, but I hope you could make it out. But it was not about the deep compassion for these confused children and how we want to help kids to be all that they were intended to be. None of that. It was, you know, the surgery's $40,000, and hey, there's a lot of money to be made. We have to have a lot of extensive follow-up visits, and, you know, this is a profit center for Vanderbilt Medical.
Well, I'm making the assumption that the surgeries aren't covered by insurance, that these would be considered more of a cosmetic type option?
In most cases, most insurance companies won't cover this surgery. Now, I think we're going to see more and more will because of the political pressure for it. I just can't imagine who thinks it's a really good idea to take a 12, 13-year-old girl and remove her breast, give her a hysterectomy where she can never ever have children because she desires to be a boy, and then they give her harsh and very, very powerful chemicals that change her entire body functions right in the middle of her going through puberty, leaving her, rendering her a completely different person, not really a boy, but no longer a female, and think we've done her a favor.
Right.
Who thinks that?
Right. And the long-term implications from multiple visits afterwards. It's not going to be just one and done surgery. It's what's happening afterwards.
What's really tragic is repeatedly we keep hearing about these same kids who at 12, 13, 14 have this procedure when they're 18, 19, 20, they so regret it. They're angry that they were, in their words, duped into it. And the suicide rate among those who go through this is astronomical. And I know that one of the arguments for doing it is, well, if kids think that they're really in the wrong body and we don't do transgender surgery, they're likely to commit suicide. And that's the argument. But here's the truth. Greater likelihood of suicide after that procedure than it even was before. You might want to at some point think that the problem is not their biological makeup. It's something going on inside of them that needs some intense therapy, and it's not physical mutilation that makes them better, because it's not the outward person that's struggling, it's the inward person. It's just absolutely sad. Now, this second video, also from Vanderbilt, this is plastic surgeon Julian, I think the pronunciation is Wynekor, and a physician's assistant who are talking about that it's perfectly okay to perform these double mastectomies on young girls. Watch.
So when we talk about the WPATH guidelines, so in order for our patients to really successfully undergo these surgeries, we do, again, follow these guidelines. So a lot of times it's for insurance purposes, but again, insurances kind of follow suit with the WPATH guidelines for the most part. So for any kind of top surgery, we do require one letter of persistent, well-documented gender dysphoria by a licensed mental health provider. However, for a lot of our younger patients, again, if they are 16, 17, here at Vanderbilt, if they have been on testosterone, have a parental consent, we're able to do a lot of the top surgeries for those patients.
Once again, it's hard to even know how to react to that other than I'm disgusted, appalled, and I hope that the board of directors at Vanderbilt University will step in. To his credit, Governor Bill Lee of Tennessee, immediately upon learning of this chain of events and these videos, he vowed an investigation from the state of Tennessee, who of course has to give Vanderbilt their license as a hospital and a medical facility. There's real power there, trust me. If the state wants to take Vanderbilt on, and that's a big target, but they have every capacity to do so. So Vanderbilt may be having to defend these actions and these comments before the very state boards that regulate them and give them the license to do any surgery. That would be devastating to Vanderbilt. You know, I don't wish harm upon Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt needs to own up to this. They need to rescind this action where they're mutilating, and that's the only word I can think of, mutilating children. What else do you call that?
Yeah.
Just horrible. All right, let's take some questions
Sure.
from our audience.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of super chats. We'll start with Governor. David White did tell us in a super chat, this is the first time he's agreed with Joe. The plandemic is over.
Ooh, that's
there you go.
That is classic.
How about that?
The plandemic.
Yeah, way to go, David.
Wish I'd have thought of that. Well done.
Also, another super chat too. Why would Jared Kushner criticize Ron DeSantis' Martha's Vineyard migrant flights when other states like Nevada and Colorado could accept them?
Yeah, I just now saw this. One of our producers texted me the comments that he made, and I was looking at them. Honestly, I like Jared, and I typically would find myself in agreement with a lot of his stuff. On this, I disagree. I think it has been a brilliant move on the part of both Governor Greg Abbott and Governor Ron DeSantis to say, look, we're being overrun. We have, in Texas, it's not tens of thousands, it's millions, literally 2 million this year already. The illegal people coming across the border, I want to underscore the word illegal. These are not people who, you know, showed up there with their passport and said, I'd like to come in. Okay, well, you know, here's a green card, come on in. These are people who just jumped across the border, no passport, no visa, and did so illegally, and our government is doing nothing to stop it. I can't go to somebody else's border anywhere in the world and just walk in and say, I demand to be allowed in, even if I pay my own way. And you know what? When I come back home, guess what? I have to show my U.S. passport to get back into the country where I'm a citizen. I can't even walk into my own country without documentation. And now we've got 2 million people that came across this year, hundreds of thousands, 100,000 plus a month, and they got nothing to show why they're here, where they're going. So Texas is being overrun. It is an invasion. I feel sorry for people who can't stand where they live. I'm all for expediting the process where people who really want to come here and work hard become Americans and contribute to not just our way of life, but to theirs. I got no beef with making it easier, streamline it. But that's not what we have. We have people just coming across. They could be bringing fentanyl. They could be bringing small children to sex traffic them. They could be members of gangs. We just don't know because we don't care. And so when Governor Abbott finally says, look, we're having to educate, give health care, give housing to all these people, we're not a sanctuary state. New York is a sanctuary state. New York City is a sanctuary city. Chicago is a sanctuary city. Washington, D.C. They so proudly virtue signal by saying, we're a sanctuary city. We're better than those other people. Well, if you're so good at it, here they are. And I think it has been a brilliant move, and not just a political ploy, but it really does point out the hypocrisy of the left. You know, the people that went to Martha's Vineyard, there were 50. They all agreed to go. This is another lie that's being told on the news, that these people were shipped off. They had no idea where they're going. We've seen the documents. They all knew where they were going. They signed and said, I voluntarily am willing to go to Martha's Vineyard. Ain't a bad place to go. One of the most Tony little villages in all of the United States. And 50 illegals scared the daylights out of Martha's Vineyard, and they shipped them off to a military base in less than 24 hours. How do you think Texas feels? Anyway, more questions?
Absolutely. Ladybug is writing us, Governor. Here's a gentleman that shows up from time to time in the news cycle. What is your view of Mike Lindell suing the federal government?
I love it. In fact, let me tell you how much I love it. I went and I didn't need another pillow, but I ordered one. Just because I said, by gosh, this guy has more guts than almost any elected official I know. I don't know that I agree with Mike Lindell on all of the things that he has said about the elections, because I don't know. I've not done the research he has done, so I don't pretend that he's wrong or right. I don't know. But I have such respect for him that as a private citizen, spending his own money. This is not a guy that spent your money as a taxpayer. He spent his money to conduct an investigation of the propriety of the elections. I kind of applaud that when people spend their own money for what they believe in. I believe that's a lot better than when people spend my money to push stuff down my throat I don't believe in and do it with my tax dollars. So my feeling about Mike Lindell, God bless him, I'm glad he's suing. It's a tough climb because I believe the justice system right now is rigged against Christians and conservatives. We see that almost every day. But the only way that we can recover in this great republic of ours is to fight back. And thank God he's fighting back. And like I said, I'll probably order some more stuff this week. You know, he's gotten thrown out of so many stores because he's not politically correct, and they won't sell his stuff in places like Bed Bath & Beyond, and I'm trying to remember some of the places that he's been banned from. So every time I hear that he's been banned, I say, okay, I got to get some slippers. I want to have, gosh, towels,
a pillow
sheets.
Topper, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I got so much stuff from fortunately, it's good stuff. I love the pillows, but you know, there's only so many things that I can fill my house with.
Well, maybe I'll go home and buy some
there we go.
today. All
okay.
Right. Sheila Daniels is writing today, Governor, and this question comes up from time to time, so maybe just for the live stream you can make it official. Would you ever run for president again? You would make a great president. What say you?
Sheila, I thought I would, and that's why twice I ran, but obviously not enough people were as smart as you. So the question, would I do it again? No. And, you know, there's so many times you can mortgage your home and go out there, because you don't understand that to run for president, you have to have enough money set aside that you can live not having any income for 18 months. All of my income has always been active, not passive. So I don't have like trust funds that are just making dough for me. If I'm not busy doing something and getting paid for it, I don't have anything coming in. So for me, it was all about working to build up enough reserves so I could live 18 months or so without any income coming in. And at the end of that, then you've got to recover, and it takes time. It's not all that, but you know, I feel like I've twice said, "Here am I, send me," and the voter said, "Yeah, no thanks." So I get the message. Maybe other people will take that spot.
All right, here's a question related to that congressional candidate up in Ohio, Governor, from David E. Miller. He's asking, is R Majewski a dead fish in the water?
Now,
this is the congressional candidate from Ohio.
Oh, yeah. The one
candidate.
that had indicated that he served in Afghanistan,
yes,
and now there are no military records.
His resume was a little messed up.
I deeply, deeply regret that somebody would ever claim to have done something that he didn't do, whether it's Hillary Clinton running through enemy fire in Bosnia, or whether it's Brian Williams, his helicopter was under attack, all of which was not true. And we were pretty harsh on people like that for saying stuff. Stolen valor is a serious thing. When you claim to have done something in the military you didn't do, you know, you're like the Connecticut Senator Dick Blumenthal, who claimed to have been in Vietnam. He was never in Vietnam. You know, they call him Da Nang Dick because, you know, he claims, "I was in Vietnam." No, you wouldn't. He, I think, was drafted during the era of Vietnam. It never left the U.S. But, you know, claiming to be a Vietnam veteran when there were people who were sitting there in foxholes and jungles and getting shot at, it's just not right. So I'm not going to defend this guy. I will say that the only saving grace he has, he was, in fact, in the military. He did serve the country. And frankly, that should be enough. He shouldn't have to make anything else up other than that. He wore the uniform. He saluted the flag and did his duty. That's qualification by itself. I wish he hadn't done that. I hope he will somehow explain how this happened. Did he intentionally lie? Did somebody write up his stuff that he didn't see it? That's hard to believe. And he looked it's bad. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's bad. I hope that people of Ohio make a good decision for the choice of Congress. And maybe you look at it as, well, a conservative liar is better than a liberal liar. Right? Maybe that's the way you look at that.
I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a great criteria.
Okay.
I'm not trying to justify it. I think the guy was wrong to have claimed to be in Afghanistan if he wasn't.
Agreed.
All right. One of the really bright lights in government today is Kamala Harris, our vice president. And in her speeches, sometimes she's so profound, I just don't know that I'm worthy to be able to be in her presence and to hear her wisdom. She was talking to the group of community bankers recently, and she gave us an extraordinary insight. Let's watch.
So we invested an additional $12 billion into community banks because we know community banks are in the community and understand the needs and desires of that community as well as the talent and capacity of community.
Everyone in this room is now dumber.
I'm glad we used that. We should have used that whole clip at the end because, I mean, it's almost like it was written for comedy, not for a vice presidential speech. We're here. We're giving $12 billion to community banks because community banks are in the community. Wow. That is profundity.
Back in the day, SNL would have had a blast with that.
Oh my gosh. They would never have let that go, Democrat or Republican.
No way.
Because it's like that's comedy writing itself.
Absolutely.
Absolutely unbelievable. I want to get to this clip because this is one talking about going from the hilarious to the very sobering. This is Stacy Abrams. You know Stacy Abrams, the duly elected governor of Georgia who was cheated out of the election, who never really said she lost, that she actually had it stolen from her. But however, she's not a threat to democracy, even though Joe Biden says if you question the election, you're a threat to democracy. Somehow she escaped that. But now she's not only the governor of Georgia by her own calculation, she's a doggone medical doctor and a scientist and a biological genius. Here's Stacy Abrams explaining that when you hear a fetal heartbeat, It is not a baby. It is just the sound of an electronic signal that men create in order to hold women down. I ain't making it up.
There is no such thing as a heartbeat at 6 weeks. It is a manufactured sound designed to convince people that men have the right to take control of a woman's body away from her.
Once again, I know the audio is a little difficult to discern, but she said on this panel in a public forum, this was not undercover video caught at the table at a Waffle House. She's saying this in a public forum, that when you hear the baby heartbeat on an ultrasound, it's not really a heartbeat. It's electric pulses that the machine is picking up, and the machine was made by men so that they could justify holding women back. It's hard to even respond to something as ridiculous as that. But a lot of scientists and doctors, thank goodness, have, and they've said, basically, as Larry Gatlin would say, she's full of bovine droppings. Oh, that would be his statement for that. I will quote my friend Larry on that. By the way, just as a follow-up to that, Kamala Harris, our extraordinarily bright vice president, is encouraging the Democrat attorneys general around the country to get rid of all these crisis pregnancy centers who are helping women struggle with their pregnancies.
You are taking on rightly the crisis pregnancy centers.
We got 1,500 people.
Yes, we did.
So that means we get to play the clip here in just a moment. Before we get to that, Kamala Harris basically saying, let's get rid of these crisis pregnancy centers. I speak probably to a dozen or more fundraising events for crisis pregnancy centers, literally all over the country, from the Pacific Northwest all the way to South Florida. Every one of them, I know, take no government money. They don't get a dime from the taxpayers, unlike Planned Parenthood, most of its funding from taxpayers. They provide medical services at no charge to women who are in trouble and who find themselves pregnant. They give them ultrasounds. They help them if they decide to adopt. They take care of that procedure for them. If they want to keep their baby, they will help them with everything from prenatal care to postnatal care to giving them diapers and formula and giving them classes on breastfeeding. It's absolutely amazing what they are willing to do at no cost to the client. Baby clothes, car seats. They do a real service, and they do it most always in the name of Jesus, because they truly care about the spiritual lives, not just of the baby, but of the mother. And I would put their compassion and love against anybody's. And this is true across the country. And here's Kamala Harris, just like Elizabeth Warren, saying we need to shut these crisis pregnancy centers down. Why? Do you not want little kids to have car seats? Do you not want their mothers to be able to put clothes on their kids? Do you not want those mothers to have diapers for their babies? What about closing them down makes it sound so good to you? I'd love to know. And the free medical care that they get from licensed physicians and obstetricians, is that a problem? I don't get that.
It's the basics. We're providing the basics to help those mothers get off to a good start. It's foundational, and it's required. Where's it going to come from if these centers aren't there?
100%. Okay, we promised if you get us 1,500 likes, we'll show you a video. We're about to do it. This is Donald Trump and Joe Biden interviewing each other on 60 Minutes.
You know what? She deleted 33,000 emails.
How that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped, or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
I think it's disgraceful what she's done.
I mean, honest to God, that's all I think.
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign.
I haven't, look.
They spied on my campaign, they got caught.
Don't.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught.
Yes.
It was our Justice Department.
Yes.
It was Obama and Biden.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. So wrong.
So wrong, but so stinking funny. We want to just give a shout out to @Mays M-A-Z-E, at Maze Moore, who created that absolutely amazing video. Bravo at Maze Moore for giving us the pleasure of all of that. Hey, be sure to leave your questions in the comments. We do want to get those. We'll keep up with them even after the live stream is over. If you haven't already subscribed, do that right now and hit the notification bell, the like and share, so next time you'll be with us.